Good afternoon, everyone. It's exactly 12 by my time, and I think we'll just start off and praying for good network today. I welcome you to our monthly presentation, webinar presentation at the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria. We used to have this every 2 weeks. From last month, May, we started the monthly presentation. I am Gloria Neto, the director of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies. Today will also be a very exciting moment together. And we all have been looking forward to this presentation. I welcome my senior colleagues, Professors Abdallah and Sogolo. They are always with us here to enlighten us on issues. We really appreciate your presence. And we welcome especially our presenter for today, Professor Augustine Onyagala, who is here to enlighten us about some issues. I'll be introducing him shortly. Before we continue, as usual, I will try to say something small about our Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies. Was started 3 years ago under the regime of Professor Abdallah Adamu, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of National Open University of Nigeria, under Tech Fund seed sponsorship. So we have actually come of age. We are 3, so we have come of age. We are no more that tiny baby of yesterday. 3 years is quite some time. And this center has been mandated to bridge the gap between humanity and the future. And our mission is to provide sustainable leverage for interdisciplinary research in migration and global studies. I always try to stress the global studies because it's not only migration issues. Any topical issues relating to global studies is always welcome. And our core values include integrity, inclusion, diversity, service, participatory. And our core mandates are as follows: to provide leverage for field-based and solution-driven research, to serve as agents of national policy for migration studies, to seek grants for academic activities and outreach for sustainability, to publish and sustain peer-reviewed academic journal and monograph series, to collaborate with stakeholders in the field and policymakers, to organize occasional seminars, conferences, and public lectures. So our seminar series have been on, and that one we have been doing very well, as well as our journals publishing. But for some time now, we are constrained by some unforeseen circumstances to delay our publication, the publication of our first issue for this year. But I assure you, in the next presentation, we may have it online and we inform you. We are working on it. We are sorry for the delay in that very presentation. So having said this little bit about our journal, I think on the chat, we have put there some of our website, the link to our website, as well as to our journal website. You know, the link for the center, for the journal website, and for the center itself. So feel free to log on to the links, you know, put on the chat there and know more about what we do in this center. Having said that, I'm now going to go quickly to introduce the presenter of today. The presenter of today is Professor Augustine Onyagala. He has PhD, FWAP CMLS, FMLS-CN, FGHTN, Oxford, MSQA. These are many professional qualifications, but he is a professor as well as head of department of medical laboratory sciences at Christland University, Abeokuta, Nigeria. He has played various roles as principal investigator, co-principal investigator, technical advisor, and consultant to facilitate and implement different national projects funded by different organizations, including the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Federal Ministry of Health, and partners, PEPFAR, among others. Professor Onyagala is a recipient of different scholarships and travel agents and has had many academic publications which appear in top published by top publishers and appear in so many top journals such as Elsevier, BMC, Medno, Clinical Chemistry and Lab Medicine, WHO Bulletin, Cancer Biomarkers, Journal of Complementary and Integrative Medicine, African Journal of Health Sciences, Journal of Public Health in Africa, European Journal of Medical Plants, and Journal of Food Science in Africa, among others. He has conducted several clinical studies in phytomedicine, and his research interest is focused on clinical and translational benefits of phytotherapies to manage both infectious and non-communicable diseases. He's a member of several professional bodies within and outside Nigeria, and he also performs peer review to many local and international journals, and the list goes on and on. I would say he's also widely traveled, and so we know that we have somebody who is a guru in his own discipline of medical laboratory medicine. Today, he'll be speaking to us on phytotherapies and global health, the good and the ugly. So join me to welcome Professor Augustine Onyagala for his presentation today. You are welcome, sir, Professor Augustine.
Thank you very much, Professor Aneto. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate everyone this afternoon for giving me the privilege to be part of this innovative idea emanating from National Open University of Nigeria. I usually consider it a privilege whenever I'm given an opportunity to share science and innovations in scientific research and discoveries, especially as it affects translational research, possibly implementation science, public health, and medical laboratory science. So I'm not taking this opportunity for granted, and I sincerely thank the organizers of this meeting for giving me the opportunity to share some of my research ideas I have in phytotherapy. When I was initially conducted to be part of this discussion, I was thinking, please, what do I focus on? Because I'm a man of many parts. But I think it's better to discuss on hot issues, hot topics that are happening globally. And one of the hot topics globally seems to be phytotherapies and the role they play in health and diseases, especially as the world is being ravaged with all kinds of infectious and non-communicable diseases. So thank you very much. I'm going to spend a few minutes to run through the slides I have. Can I share slide, ma'am? I believe I can share.
You can share. You are a co-host, sir.
All right. Okay. All right. All right. Can you see the slide? All right. Once again, good afternoon. I'll be sharing with all this afternoon phytotherapies and global health. And on slide, you see precisely my teaching objective this afternoon, and I should be able to discuss the more focus of global health. What are the fundamentals of global health? And from there, we move on to examine overview and role of phytotherapies for global health needs. We'll also be highlighting the good and ugly associated with the use of phytotherapies to meet global health needs. I should also be able to explain the critical role of research, both interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary collaboration in advancing research into phytotherapies. As scientists and academics, we know and we are very sure that globally, research institutes, research organizations are trying to enhance and accelerate interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research across different scientists, across the institutions. So these are the objectives I have, and I'm expecting by the time I'm through with this discussion in the next few minutes allotted for it, you should be able to know the main focus of global health. Of course, everybody here is an expert in one way, in one area of science or the other. And then the center is also a center that is focused on discussing global health issues. So global health is a very hot issue across the world. And I should be able to also understand the role of phytotherapies in global health. What role do phytotherapies play when it comes to meeting global health needs? Participants are able to understand some. Of course, if you already know, you'll be adding to the knowledge you already have. I am also expecting that you should be able to enumerate the good and the ugly associated with phytotherapies, and also should be able to explain precisely the critical role of research, interdisciplinary and multi in advancing global health phytotherapy applications. I want to start with a story. When I was growing up, I lived with my grandmother, and each time I observed her doing something. And anytime my grandmother had cough, she would go and take some red oil. She would mix it with shea butter, and she would warm it, put a tincture of salt, and then she would drink it. And I would watch her do that in the morning, do that in the evening, do that for 3 days. And before you know it, the cough is gone. Then I was watching as a young person. I was asking, Grandma, what are you doing? She wasn't able to explain anything to me. She said, don't worry. When you grow up, you will know. Then another practice that she frequently did when she was alive, she's late now. When she soaked pap, she would decant the water from that pap. Take a little, put in a cup, make her pap, then take some of the water she decanted from the old pap, poured it into the hot pap she made, turned it, and then she drank the pap. I was asking her, Grandma, what did you do? What are you doing? Explain this thing. He said, don't worry, when you grow up, you will understand. And truth to her statement, when I began to grow up and when I really went into science and began to study science, I came to the conclusion that my grandma was doing two things. She was using the science of probiotics to manage GIT infections. She was also using the science of bacteria not sustaining and not growing in oily environment to manage her upper respiratory infection. I was excited. I said, wow, my grandma did not go to school, but she was applying the basic knowledge, basic rudimentary of scientific discoveries to manage diseases she had. So today, I've come to understand that you can use bacteria to treat bacteria, which is the science of probiotics. I've also come to understand by medical microbiology that you can use oily substances to limit the growth of bacteria. So we have come to agree to understand that bacteria does not grow on oily environment. It retards them, then the body immunity comes into play, and then engulfs whatever pathogen that is causing either the upper respiratory or the lower respiratory tract infection. Brilliant science that grandma did, and many people are still doing, and then it's now becoming a global discourse, especially the science of probiotics. And when I grew up, married, began to have children, I can testify that of all the children I had, I never treated any one of them with cough syrup. Each time they had cough, I would implement exactly what I saw my grandmother did. So I would take red oil, I would take shea butter, I would mix it, I would put a tincture of salt, I would give to my child to drink. And 2-3 days after, the cough is disappeared. Definitely, as far as I'm concerned, it worked and the children are already grown now. All right, having said that background, I'm laying out a layout for my presentation this afternoon. We are looking at definitions of global health. We look at overview. What are definitions of phytotherapies? So what's the relationship between phytotherapy and global health? So what's the good? What is the ugly? What challenges do we have as we research and discuss global health in relation with its relationship with phytotherapy? Are there ways forward, recommendations we definitely made, and then we'll be concluding our discussion this afternoon. All right, so Global health focuses on improving the health and well-being of population, and that's the hallmark of global health. The healthiness of a population. How wealthy are the people? How healthy are they? How socially healthy? Of course, we know the definition of health by WHO. Health is a complete state of the mind, not just an absence of sickness. Complete state of the mind. The mind includes emotional health, physical health, social health, not just the absence of disease. So if there is a social issue, if the community is not physically healthy, the community is not socially healthy, the community is not emotionally healthy, then there's no health. Even the community is physically healthy, and then the social component of health and the mental component of health, if there are issues, that community then is not healthy. So public health, global health also addresses health issues across the globe and recognizing the interconnectedness of health and social factors on a global scale. And that's exactly what I said. So global health looks at what is your health all about, what is the connection between your social health, emotional health, and physical health, vis-a-vis across the world. And if any component of health is deficient or is not appropriately captured in the health scale, it definitely implies that that community is not healthy. So global health examines all this and then looks at ways of reducing these issues. So I'm using a table here to strictly summarize the key focus of global health. As we all know, it looks at the burden of disease across countries, across continents, across nations. The burden of malaria in Africa cannot be compared with the burden of malaria in developed countries. So malaria is endemic in Africa, and researches, investments are being made to ascertain and to cure and to limit the prevalence of malaria across countries. Global health also looks at health disparities and inequalities. We live in a country where the rich, they fly abroad to get quality health care, and the poor are allowed to die locally. So global health looks at how do we limit these disparities? How do we make health care accessible to people who need quality health care? Quality health care is the right of every person born into a country. So if people can't access healthcare, why can't they access it? Are there ways we can create enabling environment? Are there ways we can make healthcare accessible to people so that healthcare or quality healthcare is not only available to the rich? Everybody has right to healthcare. Global health also focuses on infectious diseases. We all know the burden of infectious diseases across the world. COVID-19 is still there with all of its associated consequences. A few days ago, there was a news that anthrax is very close to us. So these viruses will continue to emerge and reemerge, and as they emerge, it creates a disparity between nations. Those that have stronger health systems manage it well. Those that don't have strong health systems tend to pay the price. So for us to make sure that we meet global health needs, we need to begin to think as a nation, as individuals, as scientists, how do we manage these infectious diseases? It also looks at non-communicable diseases, maternal health, and child health. Research is saying many children die before their 5th birthday as a result of malnutrition, as a result of infectious diseases, as a result of malaria, and so on and so forth. Non-communicable diseases, hypertension is on the increase, kidney failures, liver diseases, cardiac issues, whatever, so many. So these are placing different bodies across continents, across nations. Of course, global health look at health systems. How strengthened is your health system? Do you have the capacity to manage diseases? Do you have capacity to look at infections when they arise? Does a nation have capacity to treat patients when they come to hospitals? The recent COVID-19 was very evident to everyone. It made our health systems, it revealed to us how strong our health systems were when we had COVID-19 and how strong they are still are now that COVID-19 is almost reducing. So Of course, there's a slogan in town. Many experts are jackpying. Everybody's flying abroad, looking for better places to enjoy their life. And that weakens the health system. The more you lose your health experts, the weaker your health system becomes. So global health tries to address all that. So health promotion and prevention, of course, which comes through health education, health promotions, and health prevention. So we know there's a preventive component of healthcare that people try to focus on, and then educating people, enabling them to reduce exposure or contacting one infectious disease or exposing themselves to one airborne or non-communicable disorder. So things like that, lifestyle modification can save people from one disease or other. So global health looks at research, innovations, and how it impacts diseases, global health diplomacy, relationship between nations, or diplomatic, or what we call global health policies. How can we use global health policies to improve health systems across nations, across climes, and across environments? We'll also talk about global health, also focus on global health governance. What's the role of government in attending to global health needs? Are there ways government can improve global health issues by implementing sustainable policies, sustainable environment that will advance research, that will improve the health care of individuals living in that climate? So generally, this is just overview of global health. So what's phytotherapy? Phytotherapy, as defined by WHO, requires the use of plant-based substances for healthcare purposes. Plant-based, strictly plant-based. I'm not discussing traditional medicine here, neither am I discussing complementary or integrative medicine as a whole. I'm just taking an aspect of phytotherapy, which is called herbal medicine. So of course, we all know that herbal medicine is a component of traditional medicine. Traditional medicine involves other components, but phytotherapy examines critically the role plants and herbs play in managing, treating, preventing diseases and infections. So that is exactly the focus of phytotherapy. Phytotherapy has been utilized for centuries. I told you my mother-in-law, my grandma, while she was alive, she tried using phytotherapy. Even with that, knowing that she was applying the science of phytotherapy, she applied it, it worked for her. She died at 98 years old. She constantly applied the science of phytotherapy in her day-to-day living. And so across the globe, across nations, across the nation, people regularly on a daily basis tend to rely on the use of phytotherapy to improve your health care, to do so many things, to achieve a lot of healthcare outcomes. By WHO report of 2012, it's estimated by over 90% of populations living in developing countries rely on phytotherapy as a means to source your primary healthcare needs. And that's massive, 90%. And that report, we collaborated in a study we did recently, that over 95% of Nigerians use herbal therapies on a regular daily basis, in one form or the other, strictly with a view to meeting your health care needs. So phytotherapy is something that you might have used knowingly or unknowingly, one way or the other, you use it. So they come in form of spices. On the screen there, I could see garlic. Everybody uses garlic for one thing or the other. Either to spice your food, or you have garlic tea, turmeric tea, ginger tea, whatever. So people generally apply these phytotherapies in order to meet your basic needs. As we go on in this presentation, we'll be able to know, why do they use it? What are the reasons why people rely heavily on phytotherapy? What drives that, and so on. So the role of phytotherapy in healthcare, of course, is complementary and integrative. Science and research seem to say that there is a complementary role between modern drugs and phytotherapies when patients use it simultaneously. There are studies that have argued that patients do better when they use modern drugs and phytotherapies at the same time. So Globally, especially in China, where phytotherapy research and development is being incorporated into modern healthcare system, people can make choices. You can go to consult your physician, you ask you, are you going to through phytotherapy, or are you going through modern medicine? You decide, choose the one you want to. And then definitely your consent will be obeyed. And then you go and get the appropriate healthcare need that suits you. That's why it's holistic. It addresses every component of your life. It's holistic. It attends to you, takes care of you being, rather than treat a particular disease or ailment, which modern drugs are designed to focus on. Phytotherapies looks at your body and attends to you based on healthcare needs and healthcare expectations. Of course, I can testify that we have used phytotherapy to develop a lot of drugs globally. Scientists have come up with novel drug molecules that definitely will treat one sickness or the other. A majority of Nigerians initially were taking chloroquine, but along the line, WHO came up with a policy that chloroquine-resistant malaria is now prevalent. And so let's begin to take artemisinin. Artemisinin was a drug sold to WHO from China, from Artemisia. So purely all over the world, people are now taking artemether, lumefantrine, whatever, combinations of that molecule, strictly derived from phytotherapy. Phytotherapies also have preventive and health promotion rules. You necessarily don't need to be sick before you take some of them. A lot of people take scent leaf, use it to cook your meal, use it to spice your pepper soup, use it to, bitter leaf is a common home herb for many families. Take bitter leaf soup and so on and so forth. So many benefits are derived from these herbs as we take them. So what are the drivers of the use of phytotherapy, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe? People have argued that it's accessible. Of course it is. You find it everywhere. You grow bitter leaf in your backyard, you buy it from the market, you see a bouquet, people selling it. Ginger, garlic, turmeric, dongoyaro is everywhere in the north. And you know that nobody is touching it. And these are solid resources for meeting healthcare needs. A friend went to UK and she bought capsules of bitter leaf, capsules. How much? If I tell the price, you'll be shocked. 50 pounds, capsules of bitter leaf. These guys will come to Africa, harvest this plant, take it abroad, process it. When we go there, we buy it to bring. I'll be excited about it. Oh, I bought this supplement. I'm telling you, it's bitter leaf capsule. So think about it. It's interesting. So sometimes I keep asking, what's wrong with Africa? Why are we the way we are? Why are we not developing what God has given us? So it's accessible. It's also available. It's everywhere. You see garlic, you see turmeric, you see ginger, you see ugu, pumpkin. Wherever you find yourself, you see high predominance of phytotherapies in your locality. You don't need to travel far. Then the argument is affordable, and that's true. During COVID-19, I tried to do some cross-sectional studies to look at the prevalent herbs people were taking. I'm going to go there as we progress in this slide. So it's affordable. People buy them easily. They take it. They enjoy their lives. That's perceived safety. Everybody believes that it's safe. It does not cause any untoward kidney problems, liver problems, but those are perceptions. Researchers are saying that is exactly not the truth. So it may be a wrong hypothesis that it does not cause any of those diseases. But of course, as we go, we know based on research, really empirical data, it may not necessarily be true, depending on the usage anyway. So there are limited health facilities across localities in Nigeria, the primary healthcare centers, the secondary healthcare centers, the tertiary healthcare centers, the human resource for healthcare is limited. And because all these factors are limited, it drives the use of phytotherapies across localities, even across cities. Limited people go to health facilities to get health care. They prefer going to one local market, get some herbs, boil it, decoction of it, and then drink it. And then before you know it, they look fine. Of course, there are health inequalities. The rich accesses quality health care. The poor is allowed to fend for himself or herself. So these inequalities drive the preference of people to phytotherapies compared to their preference to modern drugs. It's also curative, very preventive. Some phytotherapies are curative, they cure. Some are preventives. And then another reason why people take high phytotherapies is high cost of modern drugs. Very expensive, especially if you do a cost analysis between a generic drug as well as original molecule, the real molecule of the drug. So if you do that cost analysis, find out that high cost of modern drugs is really driving people into the use of phytotherapies. Mm-hmm. So basically, there are a lot of mechanisms through which phytotherapies work. I'm going to be outlining some, as you can see from the slide. It's anti-inflammatory. I'm not going to go into the science of inflammation, but of course, as we age, inflammation sets in, the body begins to change. And then because the process of inflammation will precipitate different diseases, you could age more than you should age, or aging processes could be accelerated or could be decreased, but depends on how you manage the body and how well you use most or majority of these phytotherapies. Very good science of antioxidants and free radical scavenging. Phytotherapies are well known to play this role. As clinical chemists and as experts in diagnostic medicine, we know that there's a balance between the amount of free radical your body generates and the amount of antioxidant your body should have. So if there is a disbalance between the amount of antioxidant the body has and the amount of free radical the body generates, that will result into oxidative stress. And we know as scientists that oxidative stress precipitates a lot of diseases as an individual and as an individual grows. So you need to balance the antioxidant so that your body will not enter oxidative state. And that definitely phytotherapies play these roles. Immune boosting and immunomodulatory. There is a way antioxidant will supply a lot of nutrients you need that will help your immune boosting. Some antioxidants, for example, contain a lot of selenium, got a lot of micronutrients, and these micronutrients tend to boost your immunity. They also contain vitamin C. We've done some analysis using some phytotherapies, has a lot of selenium, has a lot of copper, a lot of vitamin C. And then as you take these phytotherapies, of course, it boosts your immunity. You recall during COVID-19, there was a prophecy then that if Africa does not manage herself very well, a lot of corpses will be picked on the road. And then the world was surprised that Africans had lived that prophecy. Yes, I have a slide here that will show that the prevalence of COVID-19 in Africa was the lowest compared across other parts of the world. And scientists are today keep asking, why didn't Africa have very high prevalence of COVID? And I'm telling you, scientists are also beginning to argue or arguing that Africans did not have high prevalence of COVID because they were consuming a lot of herbal supplements. There's a study and there's a record, there's published work on that area. So the phytotherapies are also antiviral, also antifungal, antibacterial, anti-diabetic, anti-aging, anti-malaria, anti-parasitic. So these are some of the roles and mechanisms through which phytotherapies bring about their activities. I have a lot of experiences in anti-diabetic study of phytotherapy. We did a clinical trial with capsules of bitter leaf and bitter cola on diabetic patients and diabetic patients with foot ulcer, clinical trial. And the result we had was quite interesting, published. It's one of the slides I'll be showing you to enable us see the benefit we can get if we advance research in phytotherapies. So different ways through which phytotherapies play various roles in our human body. And a lot of people do take this with a view to achieving quality health care, thereby meeting global health needs. So what's the relationship between phytotherapies and global health? The relationship between phytotherapies and global health lies in the potential to contribute to improving outcomes and addressing global health challenges. That's the truth. As I said earlier, the world is burdened with a lot of infectious diseases, a lot of non-communicable diseases, a lot of health inequalities, a lot of limited access to quality health care, a lot of limited access to validated modern drugs. But how do we assess this? The cost of medicare in Nigeria is higher than the cost of medicare anywhere in the world. Everybody from here, everybody in Nigeria accesses healthcare through out-of-pocket spending. There's no insurance. The insurance is limited, and not everybody is enrolled. So how do people meet their healthcare needs? These are issues. These are global health discussion, the global health topics that we should all come together and find alternative ways, validated, empirical, alternative ways to assess healthcare that requires participation from people from across the world. I recall the Alma Ata Declaration of 1978 by WHO did recommend that nations should begin to seek for healthcare that is indigenous to the people, accessible to them, and then cost-effective. So since 1978, the Alma Ata Declaration by WHO made those assertions. So how do we begin to tap into that declaration? Many other countries like China, like India, Asia generally, they have gone deep into the science and research of phytotherapies, using it to meet the global health needs. Today, you can agree with me, or you will agree with me, that life expectancy in India, in China, and generally Asian continent, is quite high compared with what we have in Africa. So the question is why? Because definitely they have done things differently, while we are still not able to articulate our research skills, collaboratively address the challenges confronting us as individuals using resources that nature and God has given us. So as I said earlier, the WHO 2012 and currently 2022, we just reported that over 95% of populations of Nigeria rely basically on phytotherapies to meet your basic global health needs: malaria, typhoid, fever, hypertension, diabetes, so on and so forth. I know a patient who regulates his blood pressure, blood sugar using extract of bitter leaf and scent leaf on a regular basis. He drinks it and he has a glucometer. Each time he drinks it, he measures his blood sugar and he finds out that he controls it perfectly without taking any of his drugs, and he's fine. He does liver check, kidney check, everything is fine. He's not a scientist. He's one old person that has lived for some time, and he has learned from experience that these things work. And he has used himself as a case study to prove that it works. And then he recommends it to others. But I keep telling him, what works for you does not always work for people. In individualized medicine is telling us one size does not fit all. So don't copy somebody because something works for him that may necessarily not work for you. So phytotherapies look at infectious diseases, COVID-19, non-communicable diseases, diabetes. I just given an example, hypertension. I know a lot of patients who take herbs to manage their blood pressure. And it's empirical. They have blood pressure check, they take it, they monitor your BP regularly, and it's within control. Mental health depression is a very big issue. I also know some people who take these drugs to manage themselves. They only consult the clinic when they are not getting appropriate result that they expect. Reproductive health and reproductive are looking at infertility. Recently, we did a study using Moringa oleifera and its role in limiting oxidative stress among pregnant women. We got a very brilliant result. So these women have primary infertility. We supplemented them with Moringa oleifera for 4 weeks, and we looked at their clinical outcome. Our hypothesis is that definitely if you have free radical issues in your system, that could affect pregnancy. And we measured markers of oxidative stress in this patient. We had better results among women supplemented with Moringa oleifera than those who were not supplemented. So telling us that Moringa oleifera could play significant roles in achieving pregnancy outcome. We could elongate the study and see how many women we get pregnant within that period. And that's a beautiful study. Somebody who wants to do a PhD can do that for 3-4 years and look at it, whether there's going to be any pregnancy within the study period. So malaria, typhoid, so many things. And I have a neighbor, anytime she feels she has malaria, she goes, takes bitter leaves, scent leaf, moringa, boils it, and then takes the decoction. She does that 2-3 days, and she's up, running around. So phytotherapies have various roles. That won't permit me to begin to list the type of phytotherapy, their names, and the roles they play. But I'm just giving us a broad overview that there is no component of global health that phytotherapies don't have a role to meet healthcare needs. I want to digress a little bit. I said this earlier, Africa, during COVID-19, you could see the graph on the screen, they had the least confirmed cases, the least mortality, and the least mortality. We did a review recently on this, and it's quite interesting. Why? The whole world is asking. Look at Europe. With perfect health system, they have perfect quality health care, perfect policies, perfect health governance, perfect environment. They had a lot of cases. America, Western Pacific, Southeast Asia, Eastern Mediterranean. But look at Africa. We had very low mortality. Arguments are that we are not testing enough. That either we are testing enough or not testing enough, we recorded low mortality rates. So what's responsible? We did a review recently, and we found that a lot of people across different parts of the world used phytotherapy. And you could see there that from Africa to Americans, to Caribbeans, to Asia, to Middle East, to Australia, to Europe, many people used phytotherapy to either prevent COVID infection, to manage the signs if they had it, or to boost their immunity to prevent reinfection. So it was a global practice. Again, collaborating WHO reports and other reports from other scientists that across the world over, a lot of people rely on this product to meet their health needs. COVID-19 was quite critical. In fact, there is a science of long COVID. COVID is not yet gone. But as I tell you, long COVID is there. The world is still being challenged by long COVID. And long COVID has been described as over 49 symptoms that doctors cannot say this is why they're here. And so no single drug can manage long COVID infection. The only way scientists are trying to manage long COVID infection is to recommend that subjects and patients who have this infection go and boost your immunity using natural products. And that is what driving the science of phytotherapy across the globe. So one of the agencies that drive the use of phytotherapy in the world is WHO. And WHO has a solid position when it comes to managing phytotherapy issues across the world. They set up policies, they make recommendations for healthcare, and advise nations on how to go around this thing. So WHO recognizing the critical role of phytotherapies in meeting global health needs have approached scientists and told them you get to develop products that are empirical using evidence-based research. The Babalawo, they are sorry for using that word, who stays in one corner, concocting one thing or the other, is just using his skill to come up with a solution. It is the responsibility of scientists to refine whatever he's doing and then bring it to the populace, bring it to people who will ensure that these drugs, these molecules are developed using evidence-based approach. We can no longer say we are not using it, they are crude, they are rough, they are not standardized. And who will do the standardization? Scientists, experts in that field, coming together, addressing these gaps. So there are long history of phytotherapy and providing care for individuals seeking health care. Evidence-based approach should be adopted in validating the safety, efficacy of phytotherapies. There has to be evidence-based. And that's why we are researching and developing products that are validated using a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary research approach. Because if you don't develop these products, definitely people will seek alternative health care, possibly from wrong people, and that could definitely cause a lot of complications, which they won't be able to manage either in the now or in the near future. So what the WHO recommending, which is very, very important, we need to upscale policy implementation and the use of phytotherapies. I know, as I said earlier, countries like Asia, India, and many other countries in places in South Africa, even Ghana close to us here, they are beginning to incorporate phytotherapy into medical training curriculum. I know Nigeria has that policy. Of course, you know, one thing is our policy in Nigeria, another thing is for players in that field to accept and adopt that policy into realities. But the stand of WHO when it comes to using phytotherapy to meet global health needs, now there is need to upscale its implementation. There is need to increase clinical development of phytotherapies using empirical evidence-based approach. This product needs to be developed, needs to be modernized, needs to be subjected to empirical clinical trial that requires money, that requires effort, that requires collaboration among scientists. And as I said, no single scientist can develop a product from A to Z. It requires experts in pharmacology, experts in chemistry, experts in pharmacognosy, experts in clinical sciences, experts in public health, coming together to develop a product that will meet expected health needs. So we need to train people, integrating phytotherapy science into health curriculum for nursing, for medical lab science, for public health experts, because these are issues that are peculiar to the people that we are going to address. For those of us in clinical laboratory, we're beginning to find out that a lot of patients take phytotherapy before they come for laboratory diagnosis. And because they've taken those therapies, it tends to affect our laboratory outcome or output. So this still, the observation is not documented, but they are happening. So how do we address these issues? So there's also a request for openness in ethical review of phototherapy. I do a lot of that, and I can tell you that many ethical review committees are still repulsive in taking in protocols that are focused on phytotherapy research. So if we focus on these areas based on WHO recommendation, we definitely know we can move forward as experts. And as I said earlier, this is one of the review we did recently, calling scientists for clinical development of phytotherapies, because it is acceptable globally. A lot of people used it to manage their infections when they had COVID. A lot of people are still using it. Phytotherapy is acceptable globally. We can no longer say we will not develop it. So we made a solid research and then put up a robust discussion, telling the world there is need for us to go into research in phytotherapy, develop this product and make it available to people. I tell you, the world is being threatened by emerging and reimagined viral infections. A lot of antimicrobial resistance all over the world is a very big issue. And so, because of these challenges, the searchlight is on identifying, isolating, characterizing, and developing novel drug molecules that will be used as means of meeting healthcare needs. We also, this is one of the studies we did through a TED Fund grant, through one of the PIs. I was a co-PI in this research. We developed a product which we are working on to patent and then get patents around it anyway. So this is a case report. We did a case report, a case series. These are all published. Did a case report, case series among people who had COVID. We gave them the product we developed, and they took it and monitored them for a few days, and they recovered. So also the case series of about 10 people who we are giving that same supplement, and they recovered in a few weeks. So there are a lot of researches going on this product. There are a lot of information that we have generated. There are a lot of ideas that come up from it. And so we're expanding it. And so many other things are happening around it. So telling you that if we focus on what God has given us, we have a long way in having a return on investment in those critical areas of our local needs. I mentioned this earlier. This is just an example. There are a lot of studies we've done, clinical studies, using phytotherapies. This is a study I mentioned earlier. We did with bitter leaf and bitter cola capsules. We prepared all this and then got ethical approval from UI Ethical Committee, and then administered this product on patients with diabetes and diabetic foot ulcer. Our results were quite interesting. We had about 2 more papers on this, but I'm just sharing, I'm not sharing all. Just telling you, there is need for us to develop phytotherapies. There is need for us to advance the clinical development of phytotherapies. There is need for us as researchers, as experts, as global health experts, to begin to advocate that studies focused on phytotherapy should be accelerated, because the risk-benefit ratio is quite interesting. I'm sure the benefit is higher than the risk, and most times the risk is perceived and not necessarily real. So what's the good? The good that it supports effective universal health coverage, it's accessible, it's effective, and it's preventive. So, and that's truth. Mentioned about Malta Declaration 1978, whereby WHO recommends developing products that are accessible to the people, local to them or indigenous to them, use it to develop healthcare. Preventive. Also, likely alternative for achieving sustainable healthcare among individuals in resource-limited settings. It is likely, before anybody thinks about going to buy a modern therapy in a chemist or a pharmacy shop, he has used one form of phytotherapy or the other. As little, that is what they call king of bitters. Forgetting the botanical name, but king of bitters is accessible to a lot of people living in a particular community. Dogoyaro is everywhere. Some people get some leaf, boil it, take the decoction, and they are fine. Some ephedrine, scent leaf, bitter leaf, whatever they have around them, they assess it and they are good to go. So good source for developing new therapies, especially in emerging infections, antimicrobial resistant. I've said that before. I don't want to overflow that. Opportunity for advancing translational research. Yeah, of course, translational research looks at how we can translate basic research to clinical application. And so those in biochemistry, those in pharmacology, we develop product, then it will be translated to clinical application using solid protocol. That if you develop an ethical review looks at it, you can translate that. And then we will be able to develop therapies and treatments that are local, or using resources that are local to the people. And I tell you, by genetic studies, things that are local to the people seem to be providing better treatment options than things that are imported from across other parts of the world. So using things that are local to you could be able to meet your basic health needs better than what is imported from somewhere. It's also a key approach to support the AMAC Declaration of 1978, which encouraged the development of healthcare needs using products indigenous to the community. I think I've said this before. So we need to use things that are local to us, products that are valuable to develop products that we meet our healthcare needs. Huge resources, make a lot of money from it. From the slide, you can see the economic projections of phytotherapies in 2028, 47.42 billion. In 2028, that's a lot of money. So as a nation, we don't even need to talk about crude oil. I recall I made a presentation a few years back. I tell you, India as a country is making more money from clinical trial more than Nigeria makes from crude oil. Was as at 2010. Clinical trial. It's an industry that is huge. It's an industry that has potential to accommodate everybody. It's huge. But as a nation, what are we seeing? We are not developing it. $47.8 billion by 2028. Another report by Data Bridge is projecting 15.23 billion by 2029. 2029 is next 6 years. 2028 is next 6 years. 2028 is next 5 years. 2029 next 6 years. So how are we positioning ourselves to come from this cake? Massive money, all coming together, putting required infrastructure to do solid research, and products will be available to our people, validated products. Britain is selling bitter leaf to us. They got the bitter leaf from here. They send the bitter leaf capsule to Africa. Africa, we buy. There's all kind of things to us. Bitter cola is being sent here, bitter cola capsule. They bought it in one market in Abuja or Ibadan, and then they carry it abroad, refine it, package it, bring it back. We pay dollar, we pay pounds. So what are we doing about that? So let's look at the ugly part of it. One of the ugly parts was also a study we conducted in 2017, am I correct? So the issue of listed and registered product is causing a confusion. If you look at this picture here, less products are registered in Nigeria, while more products are listed. By NAFTA regulation, listed products are products that are not taken through clinical trial. But by registered products are products, herbal products that have been taken clinical trial. So you have more on listed products than registered products, telling you that we perform less clinical trial. Even though NAFTA registers more herbal products, less of those registered listed herbal products are taken through clinical trial. So majorly people are consuming supplements or products that have not been clinically validated, which is very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And this is the way we play. And yet, in NAFTA regulation, herbal supplement and phytotherapies are expected to be treated as drugs. So you list and without registry, and then a lot of people consume. So it looks funny to me. So how do we solve this? We need to encourage research into phytotherapy, telling people, take your product through clinical trial. But some people are ready. But how some of them know what to do, but they don't know how to go. So many hands are up. Post-standardization, contamination with heavy metals, poorly validated phytotherapies. Of course, we also have reports showing that a lot of phytotherapies are contaminated, could precipitate liver and kidney disease, and then poor quality assurance among sellers. And then we did a study. This is a preprint we submitted to General Company of Veterinary Medicine in a study we conducted in Ekiti among herbal medicine users. Prevalence of liver and kidney disease is sitting about 64% because motor park workers consume this massively. They are consuming phytotherapy that are not validated, so it precipitates. One good thing about this is that we try to use predictive markers. Predictive markers tend to measure your toxicities using novel markers other than conventional creatinine and urea. So we use predictive marker that picks kidney disease at the earliest stage of life, which I will encourage all of us to do. Sometimes your creatinine will be fine, but predictive marker will begin to flag your organ dysfunction. So, but unfortunately, many diagnostic laboratories in Nigeria are not using predictive marker to assess kidney dysfunction or liver dysfunction. So if you use predictive markers, you may be able to pick any organ dysfunction in your system. Drug interaction is common among users based on published report. Reduced renal clearance among people that have compromised kidney. If you already have a compromised kidney, of course, the clearance of the drug of phytotherapy will be low, and that will aggravate more kidney dysfunction. Okay, we have very funny experience here. We don't have a laboratory under one roof where we can do phytotherapy research, basic research, preclinical trial. It's I can share, if I begin to share experience in this area, it's not going to be palatable. Across Nigeria, you cannot see certain equipments where you can go and analyze a particular product. We don't have liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry in Nigeria. We don't have nuclear magnetic resonance for drug research. So it's a very big challenge. So we begin to look at how can we develop infrastructure to meet these issues. Challenges, ethical review of phytotherapies and clinical trial protocol. They are very big challenges. I'm talking from experience we have had over the years. Acceptance of phytotherapy and integral of healthcare among medical practitioners. Compare with example from China. China is a big example. Make your choice. You want modern medicine, you want phytotherapy-driven medicine. But in Nigeria, the case is quite different. Limited phytotherapy clinical trials, which I've said earlier, limited funding, and then for research focused on phytotherapy. Appreciated funds who will definitely fund some research in the area of innovative phytotherapy research, and other organizations should follow suit. So what am I recommending this afternoon? We need to address infrastructure challenge, limiting research and development of phytotherapy. Very, very critical. Universities, research institutes, infrastructural challenges, they are quite huge. You cannot do a phytotherapy research in a lab under one where you have your experiment for acute toxicity, chronic toxicity, subacute toxicity, GCMS, characterization, whatever. There is not a single laboratory that you can do all your studies in one. We have been trying to do mass liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry on the product for the past 2 years. We had to send our samples abroad for analysis for over 2 years. That's a big challenge. We can't find it here. So increase accessible funding for clinical development of phytotherapy. So let's begin to create some fund to take a lot of phytotherapies to clinical trial. It helps because the patient cannot take drugs that have not been validated through clinical trial. And we have a lot of experts in this field who can take those products to clinical trial. Accelerate phytotherapy-based translational research, begin to collaborate, begin to advance translational science using phytotherapy. Improve ethical review of phytotherapy clinical trial. Research studies are saying that some ethical committee takes between 12 weeks to 78 weeks to review a protocol on phytotherapy. That's discouraging. As when I have a funding on clinical trial phytotherapy, ethical review is already taking 4 months. So, and then maybe the study turnaround that may be 1 year. So how will I meet that deadline? So we need to encourage ethical committee experts to begin to accelerate clinical review of phytotherapy. So I need to conclude now. As demand for the therapies increase, there is an urgent need to upscale the clinical development of such product with a view to ascertaining their usefulness in meeting global health needs. That's the truth. Global health is an issue, and we need to accelerate this product to meet global health because some people are already using it. A new viral disease, and microorganisms which are resistant to validated and available conventional therapies increase, there is need for scientists to accelerate the identification, isolation, and clinical development and treatment options sourced from phytotherapies. The whole world knows this. Antimicrobial resistance is so high, and they are focusing on developing new molecules that will help the world confront this challenge. Integrating phytotherapy into global health strategy policies require a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach, encouraging collaboration between medicine practitioners, healthcare professionals, researchers, policymakers, and regulatory bodies become very critical. acknowledge the potential of phytotherapies, leveraging the Australian Global Health Initiative, encompass a broader range of healthcare approach, which will improve healthcare outcome worldwide. So, summary, we need phytotherapies. It will help us to meet our basic need. It will help in preventive medicine, to improve integrative medicine, to improve holistic care, and definitely save costs to the people and save their health, encourage them to its quality, well-validated healthcare. And the process will increase our research output, increase our research facility, and increase of economic benefit. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Onyangala, for this very intensive lecture. And you did not disappoint me because I knew you were going to go into full details in this presentation. Before you finish, please, you can stop sharing your screen so that we can see our participants better. Before you finish, our emeritus professor raised up his hand, followed by Professor Abdallah Wadam. So let us get started because I know that you will, but please, you don't answer all as they are asking, you note down. So get a pen and paper and note down. At the end, you now respond to all comments and questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please stop sharing.
Thank you, Maya.
Over to you, sir, Professor Sogolu.
Yes, I want to congratulate Professor Onyangala for this very, it's a brilliant presentation, no doubt. It is clear. The entire, the discussion goes well, but I think there are some, conflicting, aspects which I need to point out. You say you have spoken within the paradigm of orthodox medicine. What you call phytotherapies are within the language of modern medicine and so forth. And yet you keep talking about the integrative concept, the holistic concept of health, of illness, and so forth. In other words, you are crossing from the paradigm of orthodox medicine, Western medicine, into the African conception of medicine. It is true that the African conception of medicine is unique. What makes it unique? It is unique because it's a blend between distinct causes of illness. In other words, to talk about health and disease in Africa, there are two major, you can refer to them as causes. Sometimes we describe them as primary and secondary causes. Let me explain what this means. The primary causes of illness in Africa refer mainly to non-perceptible, non-physical entities, some moral, some religious, some supernatural. You talk about somebody saying that, well, witchcraft has killed this person. The spirits have done this. The ancestors have done this. It is believed strongly in Africa that these are causes. And then when you move from there again, you have another set of causes, which are close to what you have discussed now. You now talk about the germs, almost similar to what you have in orthodox medicine, the atoms, the molecules in science and so forth. Now you are talking about spirits. You are talking about ancestors. These are non-perceptible entities by definition. So in Africa, the concept of health is that curious blend between the physical and the non-physical. And of course, among the non-physical, some of them are moral. So if you had some contravention of morality, communal morality, that will affect your health status. Now, these are very critical because Africans live by these ideas. What I observe from your discussion is that you have totally thrown aside this aspect in talking about the integrative concept of illness or health in Africa. And I think your discussion, your presentation will be far richer if you bring these two together. They are very important. The two also coexist in orthodox modern medicine. That is why you will have a modern surgeon who wants to go and operate on a patient, would then first of all go and pray, hoping that God will intervene, even though he's working on the principles of science, even though he knows that medical cure is based on this, but he still goes to pray. So you have that dual conception, even in modern medicine. And in Africa, it is more there. You have the aspect which I call social, moral, and so forth. You have the other aspect, which is supernatural. And they all play a role in this conception of health and disease. And I think that aspect needs to be, at least you build that into your discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Right, sir.
So,
Thank you.
Professor Abdallah Badamu, Professor Abdallah Badamu, sir.
My observation is that I am a doubting Thomas. I'm a rationalist. I'm a scientist. I believe in cause and effect. And I've been having this problem here in this house with my family about using all these herbs, phytotherapy, in order to cure diseases and so on. And I like to believe it is a placebo effect. You think it will work, so it works. I would have loved, as a scientist, for the presenter to give me an absolute total correlation between cause and effect. That's what I wanted. You show me a particular disease is caused by a particular pathogenic organism, and that a particular strategy, this phytotherapy, cured that by killing that particular organism. What I have seen so far are suppositions and expectations of correlations, but non-empirical correlation. I didn't see any empirical correlation. I mean, moringa will cure this, it will that. How much of moringa? How many leaves of moringa do I have to eat in order to cure a particular disease? How do I know what moringa will specifically kill? I'm sure the data is somewhere there, but I will have loved for a specific, direct action on the relationship between cause and effect, because that's what science is all about. So long as I can see that a particular behavior is killed, a pathogen is killed by a particular phytotherapic element, then I'm home and good. I mean, if I go to a doctor and he gives me Panadol, he's not giving me something to cure my disease. He's just giving me something to ease the pain. And I know that. If I take an anti-malarial drug, I know it's because they have identified the pathogens in my body, and that this anti-malarial drug will go and suffocate the whatever pathogen it is that was causing the problem and kill it, reduce it from my body, from my stream, my bloodstream. So we have been having this issue of all this herbal cure, herbal medicine, and so on, which is fantastic. If people believe in it, it must have worked. With all this Chinese Tianxi that has been going on for centuries and so on, I would have expected a scientific data that proves with absolute certainty that this particular disease is cured by this particular set of agents, and this is how they did it. You can even give us the equations and things like that to convince us. I would have loved to see that. I'm sure you probably simplified it because not all of us are scientific enough to understand all that. But at a forum like this, I would have really expected, absolutely, if you just give an example of about 3 or 4 of these things and say, okay, this thing, this garlic is going to cure this particular disease. And it does so because the element in garlic is 3, 4, 5 phytoplankton or whatever. And it kills this particular organism by this particular reaction. Now that would be what I'm talking about. So I love garlic, but I need to know how much of garlic will I take in order to cure a particular disease. I don't like moringa at all. I don't eat it. But suppose I eat it, I like it, and it's supposed to be curative. I'd like to know how many volumes, how many quantities. When they ask you to take Panadol, they'll say 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. There is a limit, there is an amount, it's measured. So I'd like to know all this part of whatever it is, how much of what it is will actually lead to a better result. But like I said, the paper is very good because it at least drew our attention to fundamental issues at a local level. But I would love to see a bit more scientificity in the paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not hearing you. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks. Professor Okagbare has his hand up. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, the presenter. Prof, I'm very happy to listen to your lecture because one of the problems we've had for some time now is the fact that not many people are interested in looking inwards, looking at what we do and how can we refine these things to make them more adaptable to our needs. And I think this is an area that we can excel. We spend a lot of time trying to import the Western ideas and trying to implant them here. We don't have the necessary background, the environment with which those things can be fully implemented, yet we want to. And so we keep on being at the back, chasing them. But if we develop what we have inwards, we stand to excel in that. And one of the problems we are beginning to have is that many of the drugs that we even import, many of them are not, they lose their potency, within a short time because of our environment. And in fact, many of these drugs are also stored in pharmacies that, of course, are very hot. If you go to some of the pharmacies, the temperature at which these drugs are stored, so they become very, very impotent. So you see somebody taking antibiotics, you take a large quantity of antibiotics, it doesn't no effect. You take a large quantity of some of these hormonal drugs, no effect because of the storage of these drugs. So we need to encourage our scientists to begin to look inwards and develop these phytomedicines that be more adaptable to our environment and also be more adaptable even to our own physiological systems. I also want to find out, because you talked about predictive markers, for predicting some diseases. I just wanted to know if you have an idea, some of the labs around us in Nigeria here, where such items can be detected, such services can be gotten.
Okay.
So that is what I would like to say. And I want to thank you so much for your presentation. And I want to encourage you to continue in that line because Nigeria will benefit a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. On the chat, I have from Professor Tijani. My view also is specificity, and a case study would have enriched the presentation. Quite informative though. Kudos and thanks. I think he wrote out his own comments there. Well, we've heard from everyone, but let me also ask my own concern. My concern here is, I don't know, we've always talked about this phytotherapy as the problem being standardization, more research. Who will recommend this research?
I love that
what
question.
will we do to get there? Because it's not, in the past 20 years, we have been on this. The problem of all these herbal drugs has been no standardization. They can tell you take 1 cup and they tell me take 10 cups and the liver and kidneys can be shut down. So we are afraid of those things that we have not been able to say, this is the prevention. And we know that the prevention is to do research, to come together and standardize these things. If we are short of how to do research. Is it possible to invite people who know to come and help us and spend some money on it? How do we get to a final specific situation about this and stop repeating it year in, year out, decade in, decade out? That is my concern. And I want Professor Yagala to also think, being in a laboratory person himself, how can we come together and sort it out? Or do we keep repeating it? Anybody who comes 2 years' time will repeat what this prof has just said as a problem, as the ugly part of the situation. That is one. Then, of course, I'm happy to say kidney shutdown, liver, because I have personally experienced patients when I was working in the hospital who have taken some of these drugs and came under emergency intensive care unit and shut down of liver, kidney, and the rest. And so it makes us skeptical to want to embrace them. Those of us who were trained towards the orthodox line, I would say, I won't take, if I take, do I know how much? Not putting small garlic in your food and small bitter cola in your mouth. Not that one. You want to use it for medication. It's a big concern. Those people who are in the medical field are most resistant to it. And they will tell their patients, don't go that way. But we know that our parents, grandparents lived to 100 years and 90 and that plus. These days, the lifespan of Nigerians is 55 or 50, as they have said. And so what is costing is not only Nigerians and many people. So we just have to look inwards, like Professor Kabare just said, but let us talk practicality. What is the way forward? And I want to also advise the presenter that some of those quotations from WHO has agreed this and has agreed that. I hope that when he's writing his paper to us, he will put good references of those findings or quotations from different experts so that the paper can really be worthwhile. And we are expecting him to write up this paper and present in our very well esteemed journal. So over to you, presenter. You can make your comments. Oh, sorry, there's somebody hand up. Am I seeing Joan Mbagu? Sorry,
yes,
if I didn't.
Yes.
Over to you. Yeah.
Can I respond to the question before we take out that round?
No,
So
let that lady. Sorry, the presenter. Let the last person ask so that you just have a smooth flow.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joan from Chrisland University. I really find this lecture very rich. Although I'm not in medicine, I'm in criminology and security studies. But what is happening today since after COVID is that the world, especially Africa, we are looking inward because nobody knew Africa was going to survive COVID. They thought we were going to be burial grounds, but unfortunately, the opposite happened for them. So what I'm trying to say is that this is not the first time the world is looking, and this is not the only field of science that is looking inward. Even the African Union in 2020 had the post-COVID conference that I participated in. And the argument is, how do we look inward? How do we begin to look at peace and security issues inward? And that is what I think this paper is trying to say. How can medicine, especially in Nigeria, begin to look inward to explore all the resources we have? So my own position in this is, even though there's a need to be more specific in terms of dosage, which other professors have mentioned, we shouldn't stop at this argument. The question should be, how do we do more research to begin to get more specific in terms of dosage and how to get to use these resources, because they do work. I'm one person that I've met Prof in my school a few times, and we've spoken. I'm a great believer in ginger and garlic and turmeric, dogoyaro, and so forth, and it's working. But I'm also very careful to make sure that I don't overdose. So the issue of specificity is very important because it will help many people. I could be more careful. Other people might not be so careful, and they will come down sick. So my mother was almost 100, and she's on this, and she did very well. So what I'm trying to say is, instead of us to keep arguing that it's not working or it's not, what we should begin to ask ourselves, how do we improve on this knowledge until it will be there and available for all? Because that is actually the new trend. People are beginning to look inward, what works. And until we begin to factor that into our sciences, education, and everything we do, we keep having unnecessary delays and keep lagging behind in things. So this is my one contribution as I support the study. Thank you.
Thank you. So the presenter can please respond to the various questions and comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Neto. Thank you very much, Professor Shogolo, and all the professors that made one comment or the other. Let me start from Professor Shogolo's comment. One key thing in any presentation is the focus of that discussion. My discussion is strictly focused on phytotherapy and global health. I'm not here to discuss about traditional medicine. Neither am I here to talk about other forms of traditional medicine, which will include acupuncture, which will include the spiritual incantations. That's not why we're here. We're here to discuss strictly phytotherapy and global health. Phytotherapy is an aspect of traditional medicine. Of course, you recall with me that in China, it is called complementary and alternative medicine, which is also a part of which phytotherapy or herbal medicine is a component of it. In Nigeria, we call it traditional medicine. Traditional medicine includes concussion, spiritual incantations, all kinds of spiritual practices. Somebody can say urinate and drink your urine and cause that traditional medicine. I am not speaking on traditional medicine. I am speaking on what role do phytotherapy play in global health. And phytotherapy is defined as use of plant-based products to meet healthcare needs. So strictly focus on phytomedicine. If you want to discuss on traditional medicine has over 10, 15 components. And if we start that discussion today, we will not close this meeting. So that's why we focus on strictly on phytotherapy, the relationship, herbal-based products, and meeting global health needs. And that's my discussion today. And we could fix another time to look at acupuncture. We could fix another to look at African traditional medicine. We could fix another time to look at other fetish practices and how it relates to meeting global health needs. But I'm sure as a scientist, I am discussing how you can empirically use phytotherapy to meet global health needs. And that takes me to the next question. My prof, sir, if you look at those papers I shared, we standardized every product we use for clinical trial. And some of those clinical trials are performed in University College Hospital Ibadan. And University College Hospital Ibadan, as of today, is one of the best hospitals in Nigeria, in Africa. So, and that ethical program, the protocol for the research is approved by UCHUI Ethical Committee, which is one of the best ethical committees in Nigeria. So, and we standardized every product we use. We had 500 milligrams of this, 250 milligrams of this milligram of this. So we are working as scientists. We are not working as babalawos or herbal medicine practitioners. We as scientists will have to standardize these products using people from pharmacognosy, people from pharmacy, different units of pharmacy, scientists who compound and who prepare drugs into standardized forms. And that's why I talk about interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach in terms of phytotherapy research. Of course, you know, there is no single modern drug that can treat a particular sickness. That's a fact. For example, take hypertension. There's no single modern drug on hypertension that can manage hypertension. So managing hypertension requires combination of drugs. And that's why doctors can give you diuretic, they will give you amlodipine, you go and take it, you can. If you take one single modern therapy to take care of a sickness, it will require a long dosage to meet that outcome. So you need combinations of drugs. So if you can use combinations of drugs to treat modern drugs to treat healthcare, the concept of using phytotherapy is that a typical phytotherapy contains flavonoids, contains tannins, contains saponins, contains all kinds of phytochemicals. And this working synergistically will enable a patient to meet the required healthcare needs. So we are not just talking about one. And we are advocating here today as a scientist. And just like as Dr. Mba also said that there is need for experts, scientists to go into this area of research, begin to come up with innovative ideas that will help us standardize this product. I like what Professor Neto said. Since before I went to university, before I got master's, PhD, we've been saying standardization of herbal product is a challenge. I am today a professor. Yes, everybody is still saying that. But I'm trying to solve that problem. And the world all over has solved it. If you go anywhere in the world today, if you are buying 50 milligrams of bitter cola, it's 50 milligrams. We have done that here. We can buy capsules of these things, capsulate it, prepare them into standardized doses that you can need. So how do we know that this 50 milligram will achieve this result? We need to take that 50 milligram to a clinical trial. And that's why we talk about evidence-based approach in developing therapies that we meet the core needs of our people. So we need to do it. Nobody will do that for us. As scientists, it is our role. As scientists, our responsibility. As scientists, our call. We get to get that fixed. We got to prepare the dosage. You got to administer the drug. You get to get the protocol developed. You get to get the protocol approved by ethical committee. We get to administer to patient, working as a team, getting it done. Please, my discussion is not on Babalawo, that is one village compounding one thing or the other. I am speaking as a scientist who researches in this area with empirical data and empirically standardized phytotherapies that can be used to advance clinical trial. And that's what we are doing. And that's what I'm advocating. So people who are interested, I like what Dr. Kabare said, innovative idea. And then I've also had the opportunity to work with people from across the West. Sometimes when you do clinical trial, they don't measure predictive markers. Don't look at conventional markers. And we continue to measure conventional markers, we may not be able to know whether this drug has this effect or that effect. So if we develop protocols for this type of phytotherapy research, we begin to incorporate, because our science, the science we have discovered recently, that when you use predictive markers to assess organ functions such as liver and kidney, you'll be able to know whether the phytotherapy is having an effect on the organ. Even though your kidney, or your creatinine and urea, which are excretes of the kidney, may be normal, but when you look at core indicators and markers of kidney and liver dysfunction, using predictive marker, you'll be able to say, this is this drug, this is what this drug can do, this is what this drug cannot do. So there is possibility for standardization. Standardizing phytotherapies is not a good, it's not a rocket science. It's something that can be done. We have done it before. We have produced it. We have used it for research. We can do it. We are doing it, or we can do it. We can standardize it. So, I can tell you, read the paper I shared here, study it very well. You look at those papers, the standardized form of those therapies were used to achieve those desired and expected outcomes. One problem we have is commercialization, entrepreneurial commercialization of research outputs. This is a problem. And a lot of people here are seated as professors, and we have published, we have done research, but I tell you, how many of our products developed through research is outside there? And we are here blowing a lot of grammar, talking science. But we don't commercialize the studies we have done so that the people can benefit. So we are looking at collaboration between industry and between academia. There's another discussion about translational research implementation of science. So we need to collaborate. Those things are there, people can use them, but they're not available to the market. They're not there. Accessibility is poor. We have the product, we have developed it. That's why sometimes I ask myself, we need to begin to have government pay attention into these things. Scientists have come up with a lot of products, but they have not been commercialized. You need to consult, you need to collaborate with entrepreneurs who will buy this. If you were in a developed country, you develop a product, a company will buy it, commercialize it, make money and give you yours. But we don't have such things here. So as long as we cannot commercialize our research, even though the research is available, it will not be accessible to people. So we do that, we standardize phytotherapies, we'll get it ready for people, experts will buy, commercialize, and then make it open. As per predictive markers, we have to test it. I think we should take that as a personal discussion, Dr. Okabona. So I'm not marketing for any lab. So as no lab paid for the meeting. So maybe if I can take a personal discussion on that and see how it goes. I think I've addressed all the gaps. And just like Professor Neto said to you, it's a collaborative effort. I like what my colleague said, that we need to look inwards into how we can solve our problem. And that's the truth. The problems in Africa has to be solved with solutions in Africa. I like that argument about quality assurance of drugs. I don't want to go into quality assurance. There are a lot of issues when it comes to quality assurance. I will mention one. Can I tell you that when you go to market to buy tomato paste, thinking you are eating commercialized tomato, I can tell you from research, it is published, that you are eating starch, not necessarily tomato paste. The paper is there, it's on Google Research, it's on Google Scholar, it's on ResearchGate. You can Google tomato products sold in Nigeria. You read the paper. Quality assurance of, there are people that bought antibiotics in Nigeria. We've done a research on it. It contains no API, active pharmaceutical ingredient. But meanwhile, it's an antibiotics. There's no single API inside. So these are issues. So let's not, if we go into this area, we'll leave here today. But what's the take-home message? We can do research in this area. We can standardize this product. We get experts who can buy the product, commercialize it, and take it to the market where people will need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There's one Dr. Charles Esele who has been.
Wow, that's great.
You want to ask a question or make a comment quickly because we need to leave this meeting. Hello.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you for the privilege to speak. My Professor Nyagala for that brilliant presentation. Let me just start from the story he began with, the story of your grandmother and how she was some common ailments. You agree with me that your grandmother had more knowledge than the one you saw, the one you witnessed. And because there were no documentation and all that, she died with that knowledge. I also remembered a discussion I had with one prof, and who had siblings that were having an SS genotype. He said,
This network is cracking.
Yes.
that is siblings. He
Can't hear.
doesn't even the name of the tree and all that. So that knowledge was gone as far as it was concerned. Now, the question I want to ask is that talking about collaboration and is there effort to reach out to some people in the rural communities that have knowledge of these herbs so that we can see how we can document this knowledge and then begin to apply them scientifically and all that. Thank you very much. Thank you for your brilliant presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe Professor Nyagala quickly respond to his last question.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much, sir, for attending this meeting. I really appreciate the time, sir. I think one challenge, which I didn't mention, is the issue of protecting IP, intellectual property rights. So I have myself approached some of these herbalists in quotes to bring your product for validation and standardization. The question they ask you is, I can't give you everything because I can't trust you. So the issue, and that's a problem in Nigeria. So our IP regulations and rules are issues, and that's the truth. Even as an academic, I've had proposals sent to organizations. They ask me to submit proposal. I will send the proposal. Before you know it, somebody somewhere else is implementing your proposal without recourse to you that gave the proposal. person that never knew anything about the proposal is the one implementing whatever. So nobody is interested about the side where they want to make money. So sometimes these herbalists, in quotes, will not want to submit your product because they're not sure. They don't trust you or I. So that's the issue. So if you have people who can trust one another or who can trust each other and having regulations that are tightened by government with a view to protecting intellectual property rights, I think people can come together, bring your product, advance the research, develop the product, and then it becomes a win-win. But when I don't trust you, don't trust me, I become very equivocal in bringing out my product to you to do a research, make publications at the end of the day. So it becomes a waste in quote to me. So these are issues. So if we can, the solution is let government come up with policies around that IP area, and then people can be bold enough to enter into collaboration with people they trust. Everything has to be documented, and then everybody follows the SOP, and then whatever outcome we get from that research becomes a win-win. So I will advocate more collaboration, tightening of IP regulations, and other things around that area. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Onyagala, for sharing your intellectual property with us this afternoon. It's been a very exciting moment, and I believe that nobody can discover that I missed. No, I think everyone has made their points. So we want to really thank you all for being part of this. For the past 1 hour, 43 minutes, we've been online. And we thank you all for being there, because without you, we won't have anybody to, give Professor Onyagala some questions and answers. So we really thank you. And we thank you very much, Professor Onyagala. We are expecting you to write this up in a very good format using our own journal specifications, so that we send this for peer review and publish it in our journal. And we also expect you to continue the work on this, how to get this research, this collaboration to really get standard for this traditional, herbal drugs, which we all agree that yes, they must be working. Because if our foreparents that never used hospital were able to live long, when they were not even, some of them were not eating as well as some of us are eating now. And yet, lifespan is very short because we are eating processed food, which they didn't eat. They were eating natural and fresh foods. So, but then they took care of themselves with all those ailments and they lived long. So we really need, like everyone has said, to look inwards, and this collaboration, this teamwork, we have to emphasize it more and involve the government in it, like you have rightly said. So thank you very much. It's been wonderful having you here, sharing your time.
Sorry, I have something in the chat. I posted something in the chat, so the presenter should please take. I posted something in the chat. No, you read it out. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was in and out. Thank you.
I read it out. Okay. Thank you. So thank you very much. We appreciate everyone. Without a further delay, we need to call it a day. And I will say thank you until next month, July 12th, before we meet again. And we'll have another exciting presentation. So bye-bye and God bless.